"Sir, this boy was my friend in the orphanage." Lucy's small voice cut through the suffocating silence like a knife, her finger trembling as she pointed straight at the portrait above the mantel. Charles William froze, the crystal glass slipping from his hand and shattering on the marble floor. Maya lunged forward, yanking her daughter back. "Lucy, no, shut your mouth right now." But Lucy twisted free, eyes wild and locked on Charles, tears spilling down her cheeks. "He's not dead. Jordan told me his dad would come. He drew this for me." She thrust the crumpled crayon paper forward, the stick figures shaking in her fist, a braided girl clutching a boy's hand, beside a red fire truck. Charles staggered, face ashen, snatching the drawing as if it burned. His breath hitched, those hazel eyes staring back from the wall, the ones he'd mourned for 10 years. Maya's hand flew to her mouth, stifling a sob. "Mr. William, she doesn't know what she's saying, please?" The grandfather clock ticked like a bomb in the dead air. Charles's voice cracked, barely a whisper, raw with something between rage and impossible hope. "What did you call him?" "Before we continue, I want to speak to you for a moment. If stories like this remind you that kindness still exists, if they make you feel something real in a world that's getting louder and colder, then I'd love to have you here with us. This channel isn't just videos, it's a tiny corner of the internet where good people come together. Where we believe in second chances, in hope, and in humanity. And right now you're early. You're part of the very first people building this family with me. So if you want to grow with us, if you want more stories that touch your heart, go ahead and subscribe. It's free, it supports the channel more than you know. And it tells me that there are still people out there who believe in kindness just as much as I do. If you have subscribed to this channel, I can officially say welcome to the family. The Potomac Heights estate sat high on a wooded hill in northwest Washington, D.C., its white columns and manicured lawns a quiet monument to old money and new power. From the outside, it looked like every other mansion along Foxhall Road, impeccable, untouchable. Inside it was a museum of grief. Charles William had rules. The East Wing was off limits to staff after 5 p.m. No exceptions. No vacuuming, no dusting, no footsteps echoing down the marble halls. The housekeepers knew, if Mr. William came home from the office and headed straight for the grand foyer, you vanished. Because every single night for the past 10 years, rain, snow, or late-night Senate votes, he did the same thing. He stood in front of the portrait. It hung above the massive limestone fireplace. 5-year-old Austin William, all dimples and hazel eyes, clutching a red toy fire truck like it could save the world. The painting had been commissioned just weeks before the DuPont Circle playground nightmare, the day a little boy vanished in broad daylight, right across from the giant food on P Street. No suspects. No body. Just a ransom note that led nowhere and a city that moved on. Charles loosened his tie the moment his driver pulled through the wrought iron gates emblazoned with the stylized W. Another brutal day closing deals on Capitol Hill, another evening alone with the ghost of laughter that used to fill these rooms. He stepped into the foyer, the antique grandfather clock from Georgetown ticking like a heartbeat. The air smelled faintly of lemon polish and old sorrow. He was halfway to the fireplace, eyes already lifting to the portrait, when he heard it. A soft shuffle of sneakers on marble. His head snapped left. Irritation flared sharp and cold. He had been clear, crystal clear. There, half hidden behind the new maid, stood a child. Maya Carlson had started 3 weeks ago, a quiet, efficient woman from Anacostia who kept her head down and her work flawless. She was clutching a dust rag like a lifeline, her face drained of color. "Mr. Williams, sir, I am so sorry," she whispered, voice shaking. "The metro broke down, my sitter canceled last minute, I had nowhere." The girl peeked out. 11 years old, tight braids, curious brown eyes, simple hoodie and jeans. She wasn't looking at Charles. She was staring straight up at the portrait, head tilted like she was trying to solve a puzzle that hurt to look at. Maya tugged her daughter's arm. "Lucy, come on. Kitchen's downstairs. Now." But Lucy didn't move. Her feet carried her forward. One step, two, until she stood inches from the hearth, neck craned up at the painted smile of the boy who had once been the center of Charles Williams' universe. "That's enough," Charles said, voice low and edged with steel. "This wing is private." Lucy turned. Her face had gone pale, eyes wide, not with fear of him but with something deeper. Recognition. Maya yanked harder. "Lucy." "Sir." the girl whispered, her small voice cutting through the ticking clock like a blade. This boy, he was my friend in the orphanage. The words slammed into Charles like a physical blow. Maya gasped, hand flying to her mouth. Lucy, stop it right now. That's Mr. Williams' son, apologize. Charles couldn't move. The room tilted. 10 years of carefully constructed walls cracked in an instant. What did you just say? His voice came out rough, barely above a whisper. Lucy pulled away from her mother, tears already brimming. We called him Jordan at Hope Haven. He wasn't like the other kids. He drew pictures all the time. Of fire trucks. Red ones. Charles's knees nearly gave out. The red fire truck. Austin's obsession. The one detail he'd never shared with the press, never let leak. Maya was crying now. She gets confused, sir, she doesn't mean? But Lucy was already digging into her hoodie pocket, pulling out a folded, worn piece of paper. Crayon marks, creases deep from years of being carried. She held it out with both hands trembling. He gave me this, so I'd remember I had a friend. Charles took it like it might burn him. He unfolded it slowly. Stick figures. A little black girl with braids holding hands with a taller boy. Next to them, a bright red fire truck with oversized wheels. His breath left him in a ragged rush. Maya's voice cracked behind her daughter. I used to volunteer there, sir. At Hope Haven. Before I adopted her. The clock kept ticking. Charles stared at the drawing, then at Maya, at the woman who had spent weekends at the very place his son might have been hidden. His blood ran cold. Was this a miracle, or the first thread of a decade-long lie unraveling right in front of him? And if Maya had been there, if she had known, how deep did the betrayal really go? Charles Williams' office felt more like a vault than a room, dark walnut walls lined with framed deals from Capitol Hill to the Pentagon corridor, a massive oak desk that had seen more billion-dollar signatures than family dinners. The single lamp cast a harsh pool of light, turning the crayon drawing in his hand into something almost accusatory. He hadn't moved in minutes. Just stared at the stick figures, the red fire truck, the big loopy W, on what could only be the estate's front gate. Maya stood by the door, twisting her dust rag like it was the only thing keeping her from falling apart. Lucy sat on the edge of a stiff leather chair, feet dangling, eyes flicking nervously between her mother and the man whose world she'd just detonated. Charles finally looked up. His voice was low, controlled, but something dangerous simmered beneath it. Start from the beginning. Don't leave out a single thing. Lucy swallowed hard. The grandfather clock in the hall ticked like a countdown. I was little when I got to Hope Haven, she began, voice small but steady. In southeast D.C., near the Anacostia River. Don't remember much before that. Mama Maya started coming on weekends. Reading books, helping with homework. She's the only mom I really know. Adopted me 4 years ago. Charles nodded once, eyes never leaving her face. And Jordan. Lucy's gaze drifted like she was back there. He was already at the home when I showed up. Older kids' dorm. 8, maybe 9. Quiet. Like, really quiet. The sisters called him Silent Jordan because he didn't talk for the longest time. Just sat by the window in the rec room, drawing on whatever he could find. Old newspapers, napkins, even the wall once. Sister Beatrice lost it. She managed a tiny smile at the memory. But his pictures were good. Tall buildings. The Potomac at sunset. The Washington Monument lit up at night. And fire trucks. Always red ones. He said one day he'd drive a real one through D.C., save everybody. Charles's throat tightened. Austin had said the exact same thing the week before he vanished, standing in this very house, siren noises and all. Maya wiped her eyes. Mr. William, she tells this story sometimes, but kids imagine. Charles held up a hand, silencing her. Let her finish. Lucy continued. After a while he started talking. Just to me mostly. Said he wasn't supposed to be there. That his real name started with an A, but he couldn't remember the rest. Said his dad built big buildings all over the city and would come get him. The other kids laughed. But I believed him. She touched the beaded bracelet on her wrist, twisting it nervously. He protected me once. Bigger kid tried to steal this. Grandma gave it to me when she visited with Mama. Jordan didn't say a word. Just stood in front and stared the boy down till he gave it back. Then he gave me the drawing. Said so I'd always remember I had a friend. Charles's grip on the paper tightened until his knuckles went white. You said he ran away. Lucy nodded, eyes filling again. About a week before Mama came to get me for good. He was getting older, hated the rules. Told me he remembered the gate with the big W, and he was gonna find his way home. Then one night he was just gone. The sister said run away. I cried for days. She hesitated, voice dropping. A week later, the fire. Charles leaned forward. Tell me about the fire. It was all over the news, WJLA Fox 5. Happened late at night. They said old wiring accidental. But the main building burned bad, the offices, the records room. Everything gone. Sister Beatrice kept crying, saying decades of files were ashes. That's when they started moving us kids out fast. Mama pushed the adoption through right after. The room went dead quiet. Charles stood slowly, moving to the window overlooking the dark gardens and the twinkling lights of DC beyond. His mind raced. A boy escapes. A week later, every record of his existence burns. Not an accident. A cover-up. He turned back to them, decision made. Maya. Lucy. You're not going back to the staff quarters tonight. Maya's eyes widened. Sir? You're moving to the West Wing guest suite. Immediately. Lucy looked up, confused. Maya stepped forward, voice trembling. Mr. William, I don't understand. You will. His tone left no room for argument. If even half of what Lucy says is true, she's the only person alive who can identify my son. That makes her valuable. And dangerous to someone. Maya's hand flew to her daughter's shoulder, pulling her close. Charles hit the intercom on his desk. Marcus Hale to my office. Now. Minutes later, the door opened. Marcus Hale, ex-Secret Service, built like a linebacker, eyes that missed nothing, stepped in. He took one look at the scene and went on alert. Sir? Move Maya and Lucy Carlson to the West Wing suite. Full protection detail. No one in or out without my say-so. Marcus nodded once. Understood. And Marcus, quietly start digging into Hope Haven Children's Home. The fire 4 years ago. Ownership. Funding sources. Everything. On it. As Marcus escorted them out, Charles added, one more thing. Send a car for Dr. Lena Hayes, Maya's mother. Tell her it's about her granddaughter. Urgent. The door closed. Charles was alone again. He pulled up the secure laptop on his desk, fingers flying across keys. First call, his CFO. Second, a private investigator he kept on retainer for corporate espionage. By the time the car brought Dr. Lena Hayes, an imposing woman in her 60s with silver-streaked hair and the no-nonsense bearing of someone who'd run ERs at Howard University Hospital, Charles had the first preliminary report. Lena strode in like she owned the place, eyes sharp. Where's my daughter? My granddaughter? Maya called me terrified. They're safe, Charles said, gesturing to a chair. Dr. Hayes, your granddaughter just turned my world upside down. She claims she knew my son at Hope Haven. Called him Jordan. Lena's expression didn't change, but she Saturday, Lucy doesn't lie. Ever. If she says she knew him, she did. Charles slid the crayon drawing across the desk. Lena studied it, lips pressing into a thin line. She carried this everywhere, Lena murmured. Said a boy gave it to her. Protected her. Charles turned the laptop around. On screen, incorporation papers for the Liberty Endowment, the nonprofit that had owned Hope Haven. Lena read, eyes narrowing. This says the primary funding came from a Delaware shell company. Charles clicked deeper. Bank transfers. Annual donations. Routed through layers of subsidiaries. Until the final source. William Properties Group. His own company. The room felt suddenly airless. Lena looked up slowly. You're telling me your money paid to keep that place running? Charles's voice was hollow. Someone used my foundation to hide my son. For years. He clicked one more file. A photo from last year's charity gala. Him, arms around his late wife Sophia's brother, Victor Langford, smiling, blue-faced gold Rolex gleaming on his wrist. Victor ran the philanthropic division. Victor had access to every dollar. Victor had been at the house that very morning, offering sympathy on the anniversary. Charles met Lena's steady gaze. Someone very close to me, he said quietly, has been betraying me for a decade. And for the first time in 10 years, the grief in his eyes turned to something colder. Fury. The West Wing suite was a world away from the staff quarters. High ceilings, a balcony overlooking the twinkling Potomac, bedrooms bigger than Maya's entire row house in Shaw. But to Lucy it felt like a gilded cage. Guards outside the door. Meals delivered. No wandering. Dr. Lena Hayes sat on the plush sofa, her arm around her granddaughter. Maya paced, phone in hand, checking for updates that never came. "Tell them again, baby," Lena said gently, her nurse's voice calm but firm. "The men who came to ask questions, they need every piece." Lucy nodded, twisting her bracelet. There was this one man who visited Sister Beatrice. Not often, but when he did, everybody got quiet. He came at night in a black SUV. Tall, slick hair. Fancy suit. He had this watch, gold with a big blue face. It caught the light when he pointed at her. Sister Beatrice looked scared. Like she was gonna cry. Maya stopped pacing. "You never told me that part." "I didn't want to scare you, Mama." Lucy's voice dropped. But Jordan saw him too. Hid under a desk once when the man yelled. I heard it from the hall. The man called Jordan nephew, and told Sister Beatrice, "His name's Jordan now. Austin William doesn't exist anymore. Make sure of it." Lena's eyes met Maya's over Lucy's head. "Nephew." Across the estate in his office, Charles stared at the gala photo on his screen. Victor Langford's arm around Sophia, that exact gold Rolex with the sapphire blue dial gleaming on his wrist. The secure line buzzed. "Marcus." "Sir, Victor Langford just pulled through the gates. Says he's checking on you for the anniversary. Wants to come in for a drink." Charles's blood turned to ice. "Victor. Here. Tonight. Of all nights." "Let him in," Charles said, voice flat. "But tail him the second he leaves. I want to know where he goes." He hung up and buzzed the West Wing guard. "Get every detail Lucy just recalled to Marcus. Now." Then he straightened his tie, smoothed his face into the mask of a broken man and waited. Victor arrived with a bottle of Macallan and that practiced sympathetic smile. "Charles, you look like hell. Thought you could use company." They sat in the office. Victor's eyes scanned subtly, nothing out of place, guards disguised as late-night maintenance. Charles played the part. Weary sighs, untouched whiskey, voice thick with old grief. Victor probed gently. "Heard you cleared your schedule. And, new maid has a kid? Blonde girl, right? Odd having a child around after everything." Charles's grip tightened on the glass. "He knows about Lucy." "Just an emergency," Charles muttered. "Car broke down." Victor nodded, eyes lingering on the crayon drawing Charles had stupidly left on the desk. He reached for it. Charles snapped it away too fast. "Old memory," Charles rasped. "Austin's." Victor's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Of course." He left 20 minutes later with a pat on the shoulder and empty condolences. The moment the front door closed, Charles was on the intercom. He knows something. Where's he headed? Marcus. South on the GW Parkway. Toward Alexandria. Charles's heart slammed. Lucy's latest memory, relayed by the guard, flashed in his mind. Jordan said he could see a flag from his bedroom window. An American flag on a pole. It waved at night. Made him feel safe. The family's river house in Old Town Alexandria. Abandoned for a decade. Overgrown dock, but the flagpole on the deck, stars and stripes still flying, replaced yearly by the ground service out of habit. He grabbed his keys. He's not going there, he thinks the trail's cold. But Austin might be. "Sir, wait for backup." No time. Charles was already moving. "If my son's been hiding there." He roared out in the Porsche, tires screeching on the gravel drive. The river house emerged from the dark, shingles weathered, windows boarded, the Potomac lapping at the private dock. The flag snapped in the night breeze just as Lucy described. Charles killed the engine and approached on foot, flashlight beam cutting through the gloom. The side door was jimmied, recent pry marks. Inside, dust sheets over furniture but signs of life. A sleeping bag in the corner. Empty canned food tins. A child's sketchbook on the table. Crude drawings of the DC skyline, fire trucks, the estate's W gate. He raced upstairs to Austin's old room. Moonlight spilled through cracks in the boards. The bed was rumpled. Someone had been sleeping here. On the pillow, a folded note, scrawled in shaky crayon and pen. Asterisk, if anyone finds this, tell my dad I'm sorry. I saw Uncle Vic's car parked down the road 2 nights ago. He was watching the house. I got scared and ran. I can't let him find me again. I'll keep moving till it's safe. Love Jordan, real name Austin, asterisk. Charles's hand shook as he read it. Victor hadn't been heading here by coincidence. He was hunting. And Austin, his boy, was alive, terrified, and on the run. Somewhere out there in the DC night. The danger wasn't over. It was just beginning. The dashboard clock on Charles's Porsche glowed 1:17 a.m. as he sped back toward the estate, the crumpled note from the river house clenched in one fist. Austin had been there, alive, close enough to touch, and now he was gone again, running scared because of Uncle Vic. His phone buzzed on the console. Marcus. Talk to me. Sir, we've got Sister Beatrice. She's at St. Teresa's Hospice in Fairfax. Victor's SUV just pulled into the lot, 2 minutes ahead of us. He's inside. Charles's foot slammed the accelerator. Stop him. Already moving. Teams breaching quietly. Charles veered onto the beltway, the DC skyline a distant blur. His mind raced faster than the car. Victor, Sophia's own brother, stealing his nephew, hiding him, funding the whole nightmare with Charles's money. For what? Jealousy? Inheritance? The line crackled. Gunfire? No. Muffled shouts. Marcus. We have him, sir. Cuffed in the hallway. Sister Beatrice is safe, shaken but talking. Charles exhaled for the first time in hours. Get her confession. Everything. She's already spilling. Says Victor paid her off years ago to take the boy, no questions. Renamed him Jordan. Austin William dies with the past, he told her. When the kid ran, Victor torched the records himself. Arson for hire. All because he resented you getting the bulk of the family empire after your father-in-law passed. Thought Sophia deserved more, thought he deserved it through her. Charles's grip on the wheel went white. He let my wife die grieving. More than that, sir. She's saying Victor visited Sophia in her final weeks. Brought vitamins. Sister Beatrice suspected but stayed quiet for the money. The world narrowed to a tunnel. Vitamins. He ended the call, jaw clenched so hard it ached. Back at Potomac Heights, the estate was locked down, perimeter lights on, guards doubled. Charles burst through the front doors straight to the West Wing. Maya met him in the hallway, face pale. Mr. William, something's wrong. Lucy heard. Where is she? Lena appeared from the suite, arm around her granddaughter. Lucy's eyes were wide, frightened. I was getting water, Lucy whispered. Heard Ms. Elena, the chef, on the phone in the pantry. She was whispering. Said, the girl's in the West Wing with the mother. Langford will pay triple if it's clean. Then she hung up and left fast. Charles froze. Elena Vargas. In his employ for 8 years. Trusted. Victor wasn't working alone. He hit the intercom. All units, Elena Vargas is compromised. Find her. Now. Alarms blared softly, silent to outsiders, but the estate went into full lockdown mode. Steel shutters descended over windows. Guards flooded the halls. Marcus's voice crackled over the system. Sir, 2 unknowns breaching the East Garden, accomplices. Armed. Charles drew his own sidearm from the office safe. He'd kept it since the kidnapping, vowing never to be helpless again. Protect the wing, he ordered. I'm on my way to you. He turned to the Carlsons. Stay inside. Lock the door behind me. Lena blocked him. Wait. There's something you need to know. Now. Not the time. It is. Her voice was steel, the ER nurse who'd seen too many deaths. I treated Sophia. In her final months. Home visits through Howard. She was wasting away faster than grief alone could explain. Blood work off, arsenic traces I flagged but couldn't prove. Victor was always there. Bringing teas, supplements. Helping his sister. Charles stared, the pieces slamming together. He poisoned her, Lena said quietly. Slowly. To break her completely. Make sure she didn't fight for more leads, more psychics, more hope. And when she was gone, the inheritance fights would tilt his way. He didn't just steal your son, Mr. William. He murdered his own sister for the fortune. The hallway lights flickered as backup generators kicked in, someone cutting external power. Charles's rage went cold, lethal. Victor hadn't just hidden Austin. He'd destroyed everything Charles loved. For money. Gunfire echoed from the gardens, sharp, controlled bursts. Charles met Lena's eyes. Lock this door. No one in. He stepped into the corridor, weapon raised. The Viper wasn't just striking. It It was cornered. And Charles William was done grieving. Dawn broke over DC in pale pinks and grays, the kind of quiet morning that made the city feel almost peaceful, until the news alerts started exploding across every screen. Victor Langford, philanthropist, heir to a real estate dynasty, brother to the late Sophia William, arrested in a pre-dawn raid. Charges: kidnapping, arson, conspiracy to commit murder. The headlines screamed betrayal, but the details were locked down tight by federal agents. At Potomac Heights Estate, the lockdown had ended with Victor's capture and Elena Vargas's arrest in the staff quarters, her phone records tying her directly to Victor's payoffs. The West Wing suite felt less like a prison now, sunlight streaming through the windows as Maya brewed coffee in the small kitchenette, Lena reading the paper and Lucy drawing at the table. Charles hadn't slept. He sat with Marcus in the office, poring over the latest from Sister Beatrice's full confession and Victor's initial interrogation. He lawyered up fast, Marcus said, but cracked enough under the evidence. Admitted the kidnapping, hired a distraught nanny to grab Austin from the playground. Paid her to vanish. Stashed the boy at Hope Haven, funded through the shell to keep it quiet. When Austin started remembering too much and ran, Victor panicked. Torched the records. Poisoned Sophia slowly with arsenic-laced health tonics to make sure she never recovered enough to keep searching. Charles stared at the portrait. He killed my wife. His own sister. Marcus nodded grimly. Greed. Thought the empire should have split evenly after your father-in-law died. You got control, he got crumbs. But one piece gnawed at Charles. Lucy's memories had given them the river house, but Austin wasn't there anymore. The note said he'd keep moving. Then Lucy had remembered more. Late the night before, exhausted but insistent, Jordan talked about another place. A hideout if things got bad. Said he found it exploring once, old boathouse near the tidal basin. Cherry trees all around. He could see the Jefferson Memorial from the water. Said it felt safe like no one would look there. Charles had known the spot instantly, an abandoned Park Service boathouse on the Potomac edge, overgrown and forgotten, not far from the cherry groves Sophia loved. He'd gone alone at first light. No team. Just a father's instinct. The boathouse door creaked open to reveal a makeshift camp. Canned goods, a worn sleeping bag, more sketches pinned to the walls, DC monuments, fire trucks, the estate's gate. And in the corner, curled up against the chill, a thin teenager in a hoodie, dark hair too long, hazel eyes snapping open in terror at the intrusion. He scrambled back, grabbing a rusty oar like a weapon. Stay away. I'll scream. Austin. The boy froze. Charles's voice broke. It's me. Dad. The oar clattered to the floor. Austin's face crumpled, years of fear, loneliness, survival crashing down. He was taller, gaunt, but those eyes, Sophia's eyes, held the same spark from the portrait. Dad. The word came out rusty, disbelieving. Charles crossed the space in 3 strides, dropping to his knees and pulling his son into his arms. Austin resisted for a heartbeat, then collapsed, thin arms wrapping tight around Charles's neck, sobs shaking them both. I thought, you forgot me, Austin whispered into his shoulder. Never, Charles choked. God, never. I looked every day. I'm so sorry. They held each other as the sun rose higher, cherry blossoms drifting on the breeze outside like fragile promises. Back at the estate hours later, the reunion spilled into joy and tears. Austin, still adjusting to the name, sat wide-eyed in the grand living room, clean clothes, a plate of food untouched as Lucy beamed across from him. You kept the drawing, Austin said softly, eyeing the crayon paper now framed on the coffee table. You kept your promise, Lucy replied. You said you'd find your way home. Maya and Lena watched, arms around each other. Charles stood, clearing his throat. Victor's in custody. Confessed to everything. It's over. He turned to the Carlsons. You saved my son. My family. Words aren't enough. To Maya, your Maid days are done. I need an estate manager I can trust, with a cottage on the grounds for you and your family. To Lena, Dr. Hayes, your wisdom kept us grounded. Anything you need, ever. To Lucy, brave girl, a full trust for your future. College dreams, whatever you want. And if you want to find lost kids one day, I'll help make it happen. Lucy's eyes shone. Really? Charles knelt to her level. You gave me back my world. The estate began to breathe again, laughter in the halls, plans for reopening wings long closed, the portrait joined by new photos of Austin and Lucy side by side. Peace at last. That night, as DC lights twinkled beyond the windows, Charles sat with Austin on the terrace. "I still have nightmares," Austin admitted quietly. "About Uncle Vic." The things he said. Charles's arm tightened around his son's shoulders. "He can't hurt us anymore." Austin hesitated, staring at the city skyline. "It wasn't just money, Dad." "Not all of it." Charles stilled. "What do you mean?" Austin's voice dropped. "At Hope Haven, the man with the blue watch, Uncle Vic, he didn't come alone sometimes. Other men. Suits. Important ones. I overheard them once. Talking about placements. Kids going to powerful people. Politicians. Lobbyists. Victor was scared of them. Said if I ever talked, it wouldn't just be him, they'd make sure no one found me. Or you." Charles's blood ran cold again. Victor hadn't just hidden Austin for inheritance. He'd been protecting a darker network, one woven into the very corridors of power Charles had navigated for years. The nightmare wasn't over. It was bigger than one viper. And somewhere in DC's glittering shadows, the real monsters were still watching. Months later, spring arrived in Washington, D.C. with the cherry blossoms in full bloom along the tidal basin, a riot of pink that Sophia had always loved. Potomac Heights Estate was no longer a museum of grief. Windows thrown open, children's laughter echoing through the halls once more. Austin, now 15, taller, with a cautious smile that grew bolder every day, raced across the manicured lawn, a red remote control fire truck buzzing at his feet. Lucy chased him, braids flying, shouting playful challenges as they collapsed in a giggling heap under the old oak tree. Maya stood on the terrace, overseeing the grounds as the estate's new manager, her uniform replaced by a smart blazer. Dr. Lena Hayes sat nearby in a rocking chair, sipping sweet tea, watching her granddaughter with quiet pride. Charles joined them, arm around Austin's shoulders as the boy caught his breath. The portrait in the foyer had been moved, replaced by a new family photo. Charles, Austin, Maya, Lucy, and Lena, all together under the cherry blossoms. Victor's trial dominated the headlines, but inside these gates, the darkness felt far away. The larger conspiracy Austin had whispered about was under federal investigation, names quietly surfacing, powerful figures sweating under scrutiny. Charles had made sure of it. But for now, justice was coming one step at a time. "Dinner's almost ready," Maya called, smiling in a way she never had in the staff quarters. Austin looked up at his father, eyes bright. "Race you to the table?" Charles laughed, really laughed, for the first time in over a decade. "You're on, kid." As they ran inside together, Lucy and Maya trailing behind, the estate glowed in the golden evening light. The house was silent no more. It was full. Full of second chances, family, blood and chosen, and the kind of hope that blooms even after the longest winter. For Charles William, the anniversary would never again be a day of loss. It was the day everything began again. What will you rate this story from 0 to 10? And what part of the world are you watching from? Comment your country below. Let's build a global community rooted in kindness and second chances. If this story moved you, don't forget to subscribe and share it with your friends. Your support brings us closer to our 1K subscriber milestone and inspires us to keep creating more emotional stories of resilience, healing, and Black excellence. Thank you for being part of our journey. Your presence matters more than you know. Hope to see you again.